Greetings, grade 11, and welcome to your third lesson in economics. The topic for today's lesson is basic terms and concepts, and we continue on with the same topic that we had started in the previous lesson. In the previous lesson, you understood that every economy has different entities and that each entity is described or defined according to the activity that it undertakes. So we have the household, the consumer, producer, and the government as the four basic entities of an economy. In today's lesson, we look specifically at the activities of the consumers, and I have told you in the earlier lesson that we shall be learning the basic terms and concepts as per the activities of these entities. So one of the things that consumers do is that they use the goods and services that are produced in the economy. Now, in order for the consumers to consume these goods and services, the first economic term that describes the consumer's requirement for these goods and services is known as a want. In economics, want is that particular desire which a consumer is able to satisfy. So it is also sometimes called demand, and demand and want sometimes are used together to mean the same thing by economists. And so therefore demand are all those wants that a consumer has the ability to satisfy. And all those things that a person can obtain with his money power is termed as demand or want. Let me explain it through a simple example. You may have the want for an aeroplane, but that in economics is not exactly a want, that is a desire. A want is a particular desire which you have the ability to fulfill. For example, you may want a chocolate, and you may also have a ability to buy that chocolate because you have the money to buy it. So the chocolate becomes a want, but the desire for an aeroplane remains simply as a desire. So to summarize it, want are all those desires that can be satisfied with the money power of a person. And in economics, desire and wants are two separate things. Desires may or may not, or may be capable of fulfilling it, or maybe you are not capable of fulfilling it. But want and demand are all those desires that a consumer has the ability to satisfy. In economics, further, wants are differentiated as primary and secondary wants. Primary wants are all the wants for survival, for necessities. They include food, water, shelter, clothing, medicines. So all these wants which are meant for survival or for sustaining life is known as necessities or primary wants. But all the wants that are required for comfort and for luxuries is known as a secondary want. And secondary want is further differentiated into wants for comfort and wants for luxury. Wants for comfort means that they make your life a little easier. If you don't have it, you don't die. You still survive. Like for example, if you don't have a fan, you would still survive. So the want or the demand for a fan is the want for comfort items. But at the same time, you can quite do without an AC. So maybe the AC could be considered a luxury in our country. At the same time, luxuries show you your social status. For example, if you want a golden fan with diamond studded fan, that would simply not be a comfort, but that would be a luxury. So therefore, even items of comfort can further be made into items of luxury if they are used to show social status. Maybe a car is a comfort, but when you buy a very expensive car, that itself becomes a luxury. Furthermore, your wants can furthermore be conventional. You can see the diagram. Wants, like I told you, can be necessaries, comforts, and luxuries. The necessaries can be necessaries for existence, necessaries for efficiency, or conventional necessaries. In the same way, luxuries can be harmless luxuries or it could be harmful luxuries too. So you can keep on differentiating and looking into more differences. But at the moment, the simple way of understanding wants are according to primary wants and secondary wants. Now, wants play a very important role in economic theory because it is assumed that wants have these 6 different characteristics. First and foremost, wants are unlimited. That means the wants can never end. They keep on multiplying and increasing more and more on a timely basis. The second thing about wants is that wants are complementary, which means that you can normally have the wants of 2 items complementing one another. For example, if you want a coffee, most probably you also want milk and sugar to go along with that. If you want a car, you most probably want either a petrol or a diesel to go along with that because those things have to be used together. The third thing about wants is that they are recurring. Just because you satisfy a want does not mean that this want will not come again. For example, if you want food, it does not mean that once you have had food, that want does not come again. During breakfast, there is a want for breakfast. And during lunch, there is again a want for lunch. And then want for tea, want for demand. And again tomorrow, you again want breakfast once more. And again dinner, tea, and day after tomorrow. So these wants keep on reoccurring. And they continue on again and again. But however, the fourth important thing about wants is that they can be gradable. You can in fact check which want is more important than the other want. For example, if you're told that we don't have money to have all lunch, breakfast, dinner and tea, you might want to choose that from all these 4 or 5 different meals, for me, lunch is the most important. So you would like to have lunch and you say you would like to have lunch. Then after that, you might even say that if I have more money, most probably I'll have 2 meals and therefore my first demand will be for lunch, second demand will be for breakfast. Then if I have more money, then I will have tea. Then after that, maybe dinner would not be compulsory. So you can grade your wants and you can put them in a particular order. The wants are variable. Variable means that they can change from time to time. Today, when you are on a normal situation, when the weather is not very hot, your want for a glass of water might not be so great. But if the day becomes very hot and you have just run a race, then the want for a glass of water increases. So your want changes from time to time, and the same thing that you did not want earlier, you might want more of it later on. The sixth important thing about want is that they are competitive. Competitive means that sometimes some wants try to be fulfilled more than the other wants. They try to compete for your attention. For example, if product you thought was not useful, and then all of a sudden you saw your favorite actor using that product, then that product, the creation for that want for that product automatically increases. So wants can be made more and more competitive depending on the environment and the condition in which you want that particular product. These days, want and consumption is also talked about as being sustainable or non-sustainable. Many of our wants are non-sustainable. The want for fossil fuel is sometimes unsustainable. They increase again year after year, and they deplete the resources of the economy. So therefore, these days when economists look into consumption, they try to see that the consumption pattern of human beings be made more sustainable. So in the picture, there could be a way of consuming which creates a lot of wastage. But another way of consuming would be where the resources are renewed and recycled. So we can look at that aspect of recycling as being sustainable consumption. In the same way, when you use power in such a way that you are using power from sources that are not environmentally friendly, we are looking at non-sustainable consumption. But if you are using power from sustainable sources, from solar energy, from water energy, wind energy, those are sustainable consumption. If your consumption pattern creates a lot of pollution, your product comes wrapped in plastic and it comes in such a way that it creates a lot of toxicity in the environment, then that is termed as a non-sustainable consumption. But if your consumption pattern is such that it does not create any kind of toxicity, pollution in the environment, then that we would consider that to be a sustainable consumption. The consumption plays a very important role in an economy. Because of consumption, the economy runs. If you look at the small cartoon figure, the small comic strip given below, a child's favorite TV show has been cancelled. And the father explains that there is no demand for the TV show, that's why it has been cancelled. So when the mother brings in food which the child does not want, the child says, according to me, there is no demand for this food, still mother keeps on supplying the food. Anyway, the point that is made is that consumption creates demand for goods and services, and that's why it plays a very important role. Also, consumption creates different varieties of goods. So as you all know, wants and consumption varies, and there are different wants. Even if you look at bread, there are different varieties of bread that is demanded. So therefore, an economy can produce different varieties of bread because there is a demand for different varieties of bread. In the same way, if you look at the example of soap, because there is a demand for different varieties of soap, that's why we have different varieties of soap being supplied in the market. So also with cars, and so also with different consumer goods. Can you imagine an economy where there is only one type of bread, one type of shirt, one type of soap, one type of car? That kind of an economy would be pretty boring. So therefore, consumption creates product diversification. Also, consumption expands the market, and whenever the market becomes bigger, there is a possibility of producing goods in larger scale, which reduces the cost and improves the quality of the product. Also, consumption creates demand for services and employs people. They create more employment in the economy. So therefore, we can summarize and say that consumption in an economy plays a very important role, because consumption is the primary motive for all economic activities. It is like electricity for your music system. If you have no electricity, then no matter how complex and how sophisticated your music system might be, it will not be able to run. So therefore, if there is no consumption in an economy, no matter how big an economy it might be, the economy will not function, because there is no demand in the economy. Consumption becomes the purpose of all economic activity. You will see that all the economic activity that is taking place, of supplying, of selling, of buying, it all is for the simple purpose of consumption. Because of consumption, you will see variety of goods and services in the economy. And because of consumption, if the consumption level and demand is high, then the scale of production, the size of production keeps on increasing, and this reduces the cost in the economy. And lastly, we can also say that the consumption pattern increases the employment of services in the economy, and this creates more jobs for people in the economy. So this ends our third lesson in economics. To summarize, today we have learned the economic term want and demand, and we have seen the different classification of want. We have looked at the term sustainable consumption. We had looked at the importance of consumption. And along with this, I would request all of you to complete the assignment lesson. So thank you. Until we meet the next time, take care and look after yourselves. Thank you.